Nuclear power, the savior of man. If we can live through its ages of half-life, this boon to man has a very dark side. Known from its deadly waste we cannot hide. Already, there are places in our world man must not visit or attempt to stay. Places polluted where a man may not step, or if he should, he will certainly die. Clear mutations in the creatures exist. This must forever be a place of fear. Not just tomorrow or even someday. Forever is the word you must embrace. 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. These 3 sites where disasters we have seen. History shows there are many untold. 14 more since year 1954. All of these power plants away and far. Or near your homes where your children play. Do you trust those who say everything's safe, or fear you'll have to leave in a hurry? They bury it deep and hide it away. There we do hope it will always remain, and if it should rise up again in one place, it could be here forever to stay.
The Troubles all seem to start 73 years ago, at the climax of World War II. In 1943, President Franklin Roosevelt urged that Japan, one of our last remaining enemies in the war to end all wars, be bombed heavily and relentlessly. 2 years later, secretly kept bombs of hellish intent plummeted down to earth upon the unsuspecting people of Japan at the behest of President Truman. Hiroshima was selected as the world's first atomic bomb target on August 6, 1945 at 8:15 a.m. Nagasaki was hit with a plutonium bomb, plutonium now being one of the most carcinogenic substances known, 3 days later on August 9, 1945 at 11:02 a.m. Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson called this introduction to global nuclear warfare the most terrible weapon ever known in human history.
Women arguably have more of a stake in protesting nuclear radiation because radiation has gendered effects. Women are 50% more likely to have and/or die of cancer caused by radiation than men. Women who have been affected by radiation are also forced to play a sick game of Russian roulette if they choose to have children, as radiation exposure causes stillbirths, deformities, and developmental problems for the children who do survive. Having a child with a developmental disorder or cancer is not only a larger time investment for parents, but it's also expensive. Those living in poverty have little chance to give their child the medical attention and care required. And if fear of losing your child was not enough, the likelihood of cancer for women who have been poisoned by radiation is higher than men. And this is simply the observations of the effects of nuclear weaponry, not the effects of living nearby nuclear waste or nuclear meltdown from a nuclear power plant, which is incredibly important to note because it is often poor people and marginalized people who are in the areas that are affected by nuclear meltdowns.
Another disaster causing harmful effects on people from radiation occurred on March 11, 2011 at the Fukushima nuclear power plant. It has been said that this disaster was much worse than the one of Chernobyl. The reactors of the power plant were built on an earthquake fault, making them that much more dangerous. An earthquake caused a tsunami in Japan, causing the problems at the power plant. The effects of the radiation last for many years, being passed down through generations. Cancer is a big effect of this radiation, amongst other problems. Around this area of Fukushima, there are still damages seen as a result of the incident. Homes have yet to be fixed or cared for, and cars are flipped and ruined on the roads. People are unable to return to their homes because of contamination that still lingers from the radioactivity. But as long as nuclear power plants are allowed to operate, we cannot guarantee that this disaster will never happen again. You cannot guarantee it. Uncertainty will always be in their minds for the rest of their lives.
While all of these nuclear incidents may be different, one thing remains the same: the deteriorating health of those involved. Whether it is in 3 Mile Island, where a local survey of 450 residents in the area found 9 cancer deaths between 1980 and 1984. That's more than 7 times above normal. Or in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, where the A-bomb survivors survived whole-body exposures from penetrating radiation. Excess cancer risks have been estimated for a large number of organ sites. Dose responses are significant for cancers of the oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, colon, liver, lung, non-melanocytic skin, female breast, ovary, urinary bladder, brain, central nervous system, and thyroid. The problem is these health problems aren't just in regions of nuclear disaster, and they are disproportionately affecting women.
This is also incredibly harmful to those who live in indigenous lands where nuclear testing and uranium mining is done. Since 1942, the reservation lands in the surrounding areas of the Navajo and Hopi have been mined for uranium. On the Navajo reservation, the worst nuclear accident took place at Church Rock. Throughout the Navajo reservation, more than 1,000 open pit and underground uranium mines on the reservation were abandoned, unreclaimed, and highly radioactive. The effects of these exposures to radioactive materials on the Navajo people have shown to be detrimental, as they suffer from cancer and leukemia clusters and birth defects. Such incidences have been unnoticed by the United States government and will continue to be overlooked if the rhetoric around these occurrences does not change. However, efforts have been made to rectify the horrid situation many indigenous groups located in radiation hotspots have been subjected to, such as the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. Said act is a mechanism that presents an apology and monetary compensation to individuals who contracted certain cancers and other serious diseases due to radiation.
A struggle that most ecofeminists face is society's ignorance about the extreme power and danger of the nuclear industry. Citizens are often unaware of nuclear plant meltdowns or disasters that occur in their own neighborhoods. For example, the meltdown of the Savannah River plant is almost unknown to the American public. The Energy Department claims to be unaware of several accidents occurring at the Savannah River plant in South Carolina until an investigator began inspecting an unexplained power surge at one reactor. These accidents included the melting of fuel and one episode that led to extensive radioactive contamination. 900 workers spent 3 months in a highly contaminated environment cleaning up the radiation. The first result of a simple internet search on the Savannah River plant reveals a website advertising cancer claims for nuclear victims or survivors. Enacted in 2000, President Bill Clinton passed the Energy Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program. The program provides some degree of compensation and medical benefits to workers who have suffered severe illnesses or contracted cancer due to radiation exposure. The United States Department of Labor's mission statement reads, "Our mission is to protect the interests of workers who were injured or became ill on the job or their families by making timely, appropriate, and accurate decisions on claims and providing prompt payment of benefits to eligible people." The problem with this statement is that these innocent human beings should never have been exposed to such highly dangerous levels of radiation. People are suffering from diseases such as radiogenic cancer, chronic beryllium disease, beryllium sensitivity, or chronic silicosis because of radiation exposure. It is disappointing that the United States government allowed citizens to be exposed to radiation before thoroughly researching the long-term effects of exposure. Additionally, legislators making important decisions about these issues are not fully aware of the environmental or health risks the nuclear industry imposes.
With the abundance of health ramifications, it seems counterintuitive to continue using nuclear power. However, some scientists believe that nuclear energy is the only way to combat climate change and reduce the current reliance on fossil fuels. Part of the support for nuclear energy is deeply connected to economic gains for the wealthy. As Naomi Klein explains, renewable energy is a threat to pre-existing institutions and therefore the elite class because it is less expensive than nuclear power, as well as less profitable. Thus, those who currently support fossil fuels are more likely to advocate for nuclear power because it keeps the industry easily monopolized. Unlike renewable power, which uses free resources such as wind and sunlight, nuclear power is expensive, which means people and corporations can make extreme amounts of money from it. Additionally, nuclear power has severe ethical issues. As Klein states, nuclear power requires safe zones. While the rich can benefit from nuclear power, there are still people who are being sacrificed to produce it. Most nuclear plant employees are members of the working class, and nuclear waste is often stored near poor ethnic minorities in rural areas. Therefore, in order to produce nuclear power, certain people and areas are sacrificed in the process.
How can the public feel safe when we have little control over the industry, and the people we trust to make life and death decisions are uneducated about the topic? This is where the importance of education is revealed. As ecofeminists, it is our job to be informed about these difficult topics and educate those who are unaware of the industry's power.
With all the information about radiation and nuclear activity that is out there and debated, the question remains, why should we care? The answer is really simple too. We should care, educate ourselves, and fight back because radiation and nuclear activity is something that affects everyone, especially women, children, and the lower class. Feminists like Elaine Miyoko Smith spend their lives fighting against nuclear energy, despite the public perception that it is clean and safe, because of the disparities in who is affected by radiation. She preached that people needed to educate themselves on the subjects such as nuclear energy and radiation, and she set out to help educate the masses by uncovering the lies that are told to the public by big industries that have a stake in nuclear energy and radiation. In 2014, Elaine Miyoko Smith was given the Nuclear Free Future Award due to her research into nuclear energy and her determination to expose the truth to its dangers. Is nuclear medicine effective when used properly? Yes. However, it's extremely inconsistent in terms of proper use. Are nuclear weapons effective in protecting a nation by destroying enemies? Yes, but they produce a large amount of damage that spreads much further than just the enemy. Is nuclear energy a safe and clean alternative to fossil fuels? No, despite what the nuclear energy industry is telling to the public, it isn't safe. As seen through the history of meltdowns, and it isn't clean because it still produces CO2 emissions. When looking at all things nuclear and radiation, be like Elaine Miyoko Smith and seek education past what the industry is releasing. Because when you do, you'll discover just how dangerous and unpredictable this industry is and can be.